as a little holiday treat to myself, I decided to do something I don't really do on this channel and gush about Digimon. In this case, I had the idea of doing a tier list of all of the Digimon partners because I like the monsters. They are friends to both the boys and girls. Context of this list, I'm going to try to be ranking them as they exist as individual characters. I think Agumon's actually the best example for how I'm going to go about this. So most Digimon partners kind of exist as a reflection of their tamer. So Agumon is very similar to Tai, especially in season 1. They're both kind of brash, they're both a little stupid, they're brave. And so I would rank him as the kind of baseline of what a Digimon partner should be. They're like their tamer, their Digivolutions show their growth, but they don't really exist as a character outside of their relationship with their destined partner. I do think Agumon gets a little more interesting when Tai gets older. So in season 2, he gets to kind of reflect on how Tai has grown. I remember the scene specifically I'm thinking of is when Tai kind of gets rejected fully by Sora for Matt, and he's like, oh, that's fine. And then Agumon's like, wow, Tai, you've really grown up. And I think that's cute, and that kind of continues through the sequel movies as well. So yeah, Agumon, C tier, the basic. Gabumon's actually a little harder to rank because he does exist a bit outside of Matt. Matt is he's got that lone wolf teenage angst going for him, and Gabumon's design represents both that exterior of, oh hey, I'm a wolf, don't bother me, but also Gabumon's shy, where Matt's more so closer to Tai than he'd like to admit. He's a little more violent, I guess. It's not a very nice way to put it. But he's more likely to get into fights, have trouble expressing himself. Gabumon's a bit more honest. Gabumon's a bit more loyal. He gets to go to Mega just through his power of my master, right or wrong. So I kind of want to put him in B as a step above Agumon, even though aesthetically and character-wise I like Agumon more. So I'm going to put him as a B. I think he would probably be the lowest B on the list. So we'll go from there. Oh, Vmon. A pattern that will probably emerge in this list is that female characters don't get as well developed as their male counterparts. Digimon kind of always gives them the shaft, and that is sad. So Vmon mainly serves to act and be mostly like Sora, so that Sora can realize that she was mean to her mom and realize her love. Sora's love makes you strong. I want to rank her higher just for that terrible line.
Sora, I can feel your love. It's making me strong.
Yeah, no, I think Vmon goes there. I do think Vmon would be more interesting if they did something in Tri, so in Tri, the universe reboots, or at least the digital world reboots, so all the partners lose their memory. Sora, who's now comfortable with love and expressing it, and has definitely turned more, I guess, traditionally feminine, which might not be the right way to put it, but she arranges flowers now, she's comfortable with her family tradition, gets to Vmon, and Vmon was originally engineered, if you want to use that word for it, for a tomboy, so that's where a funny conflict could arise, where Vmon's like, yo, I'm looking for a tomboy who hates their mom, and you're a smothering mother figure now. It doesn't work for me. They don't really do that. Instead, they have Sora's entire sense of self-worth tied to Vmon. It doesn't work as well. Digirants with Mike. So let's put him there. Or her, sorry. Tentomon. Ah, geez. Tentomon's good. He is separate from Izzy. While Izzy has the knowledge, Tentomon more so is interested in hearing about the knowledge. He has the shared curiosity, but Izzy kind of has the ways to, I guess, implement it. He has the computer knowledge that Tentomon doesn't have. And Tentomon gets experimented on the first time he evolves. Izzy hacks the system. Irrelevant to Tentomon on his own, though. Tentomon's so good, though. Like, I can imagine Tentomon in a scenario more so than I can imagine Agumon. If I dropped Tentomon on his own, like, say, Island of Giant Pokemon, but it's the Digimon, I can imagine what all of them would do. I feel like Tentomon would be doing something less Izzy-like. I'm gonna rate him higher than Gabumon. That feels kind of weird. Another one that's kind of harder for me, Palmon. Because I think the dub does Mimi a little dirty, and so Palmon, how she's meant to exist, is a little weird. So here's what I feel Mimi is supposed to be. Mimi's crest, which is sincerity in the English dub, I think purity in the Japanese dub. Mimi's very honest with herself, she's honest with what she wants, and I think, you know, she's honest in that she indulges in what she wants, while Palmon more so is honest in that she's down to earth. They contrast in the ways that they're honest, and like, what's the right wording here? Why is this the one I'm stumbling on? Mimi's a character who's better when you get older than you are when she was a kid. And just, you know, if Mimi wants to cry, she cries, and Palmon does that too. So they have that in common. Is she as separate from Mimi as Gabumon is from Matt? Gabumon has the line where he says, "You're not a natural blonde."
I've been living a lie.
You're not a real blonde?
And I think that's hilarious. So I'm gonna rank Palmon will go above Agumon because I think she does contrast Mimi a little more than Agumon is just Tai. Oh man, I think I need to add another level, move these guys down and add another tier. So I'm gonna do that now. So now D is our standard tier. C is our slightly better than standard tier. And I'm saying that because I think the next two are definitely better than Tentomon and Gabumon. Gomamon, B tier. I love him. I love him so much. And then Tri breaks my heart because the whole part that he's in, he is sad because while he's like still a part of Joe's life, he's not as much as he wants to be anymore, and he's trying to support how he can, even if it's not as like a fighting partner anymore. So yeah, Gomamon, I think there's a lot of characters who are high-strung or serious paired up with a more jokey, laid-back partner. I would say Gomamon is the archetypical example of that. He is with Joe, who in addition to being the dad of the group, is the one who they give a bunch of neuroses to. He's the worrier. Gomamon's a jokester. He's also the least effective in a fight when unevolved, and he's only really useful in specific scenarios involving water, and that's where he really thrives. Yeah, Gomamon just feels very separate from Joe. Joe has his own personality, Gomamon has his own personality. There's a little bit of crossover in that Joe learns to loosen up a little bit at the end. He even tells a joke, but that's about it. Yeah, so B tier. B for better than just being their tamer or partner. Gotta be using that term interchangeably a bunch. Patamon, my mom's favorite Digimon. Patamon, okay, so personality-wise, he is much of TK in that TK, in Season 1, is just a kid. Patamon is also just a kid. TK doesn't quite feel the pressure to grow up as much as Patamon, because Patamon, all the other partners are growing up to protect. So he has his own conflict, which a lot of the partners do not. And he gets his own episode about it when he finally becomes Angemon. I like the fan theory that when TK's asked by Patamon, "Oh, what's an angel, TK?" He goes, "Oh, an angel's like someone to protect something," and that Patamon maybe influenced his evolution to be an angel because of that description, because it's what he wanted to be.
Look it! It's an angel! What's an angel, TK? Something special that watches over you, kinda like you guys.
I would say Patamon exists as his own. I'm going to put him in B tier, but below Gomamon, because Gomamon exists entirely separate from Joe. Alright, last mainline Season 1 Digimon is Gatomon, which I have definitely no biases towards whatsoever. Don't even look at the VTuber. Gatomon has her own past, separate from the kids, her own relationships, separate from the kids, with Wizardmon, dies, but he counts. Breaks our heart when he does. She has a motivation of always feeling out of place, like she's meant to be doing something else with her life, that she's been looking for where she belongs, which I would say ranks the same, if not better, than Patamon's motivation of I need to grow up and do my role. Once she joins the good guys for good, Gatomon's kinda boring. She doesn't really have anything else interest. Her past never really haunts her in any form. There's just... And Digimon does this a lot with... If a character who was formerly evil joins the good guys, a lot of what was interesting about them gets sanded off. I would say there are some that do survive that. We'll get to Impmon later. But like Ken, he gets boring when he joins the good guys. He even loses being smart, which sucks. But we're not talking about him, we're talking about Gatomon. Gatomon also, compared to the other Digimon of her season and her partner, is portrayed as being an adult. She is a champion level, which in Japanese was adult, so it makes sense. She's more mature. Her guardian role is a little different. I like that she is a cat, but that's not relevant to this list. I'm going to say just because she has more screen time on her own as an entity, I'm going to rank her at B. Not you. How did I grab Kudamon? Jeez, where did he even go in the list? Go there. I'm gonna rank her at the highest of B for now. We'll see. I'm saving the A's for ones who deserve it. Vmon is not one who deserves it. How is Vmon different from Davis? Give me one example. He has a parallel crush that matters in only one episode where it's like, oh, Davis likes Kairi. Well, then Vmon has to like Gatomon. What does he like about her? I like Vmon's voice. I can't do that voice at all. I like his voice. I like his energy. But they are very similar to Davis. He's simple, like Davis. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. He serves his role. I think he's even less than Vmon, but I wouldn't put him towards E, where a character is less than just a reflection of their tamer. And definitely not F, where they're kind of a non-entity. Speaking of less than their tamer, Hawkman! The first Digidestined that has an opposite-gendered Digimon off the top of my head. Hawkmon's portrayed as male, as far as I can tell. They made him British in the English dub for some reason, even though his aesthetic is Native American. Go figure. And he's unfortunately paired with Yoli, who also doesn't get much. So what do we know about Yoli? She's one of many siblings, so she doesn't feel like she gets attention or desires. Her deepest desire is to have all her family gone so she can eat desserts. Pretty shallow. Again, Digimon doesn't treat its female characters the best. Cody has so much more to talk about than Yoli. So then, what can we say about Hawkman? He exists. It's cool when he's a ninja, fighting another ninja. He goes into E tier. He's our first E. I can't say anything about Hawkman. If you said, here's Hawkman, write fanfiction about him. I can't write anything. Armadillomon, though. Armadillomon's a little better. So, I mentioned before that Gomamon is the first... Gomon's the first Digimon paired up with someone with a stick up their butt. Armadillomon is the second. So while Cody is very serious, very like, I can't even lie, lying is bad. But sometimes you have to lie to help people, Cody. I think the best example of this, funnily enough, is from the episode where he DNA digivolves with Patamon. is where Cody is upset because everyone's taking a break eating food. And Cody's like, Blackwater Greymon could be destroying people any second right now. And they're over there stuffing their face with Egg Foo Young. And Armadillomon's like, but Cody, I love Egg Foo Young. Like, that's their dynamic. There's a much better version of Cody and this dynamic later on. But Armadillomon I could say more about than I can Hawkmon. Armadillomon's chill. Armadillomon exists in a way that I can use words to describe him that do not describe Cody. So that puts him in C tier. I'm gonna say above Gabumon. Did I put him above Tentomon? I guess he exists more separate from Cody than Tentomon does. Okay, C tier, Armadillomon. But what about Wormmon? You have the crest of kindness, Ken. So, Wormmon. How do I rate Wormmon? Wormmon, like Gabumon, has the I'm by my master no matter what kind of attitude, even when he's doing war crimes. He's like, oh, but Ken is so kind. He's just blinded right now, and I'm like, Ken's doing things that I don't think kind people would do. There's a funny version of this later on with another character who I actually don't like, but I think mirrors this pretty well, but getting ahead myself. We'll talk about Cross Wars eventually. But he's with Ken, knowing that Ken is a better person, and doing his best to bring it out. But he's also enabling Ken a bit, but then he also doesn't have the power to do anything about it. So where do you put Wormmon on the how criminal is he? Because other than Wormmon's, I guess, stick-to-itness, his attack is sticky net, so I guess that's why he's such a good lackey. Oh, and he has that staring contest with Patamon. That's my favorite part. Does that rank him above Patamon, then? Oh. Because Wormmon gets his own scenes. We get to see him suffer. Yes, I love it when the Digimon suffer. That's why Gatomon's so high. I am going to put Wormmon... I'd say he exists outside of Ken enough. Like, you know, he's always around Ken, but Wormmon's personality and desires are different. Let's put him above Patamon. Sorry, I guess he wins the staring contest. When I put Diatiribon on this list, I think I did it as a joke. A joke to me. So those of you who don't remember this Digimon, it's because it appears once, but is technically a partner to Oikawa, the main villain of Season 2. Oikawa finally gets to the digital world after Mitosmon's left his body and they beat Mitosmon. And Cody's like, Mr. Oikawa, come see the digital world! And Oikawa's like, oh, it's so sad I've destroyed it. Time to kill myself to revive it. And he does that. There is a questionable bit of Digimon lore that appears in some things and not others. When a partner Digimon's partner dies, sometimes that means the Digimon dies too. This is very much a thing in Digimon Survive, which I thought about putting on this list, but it's not quite enough to talk about. Which means that after Oikawa saw the Digimon he was destined for, killed himself, the Digimon cries because he waited longer than Gatomon to get to this point. And then he dies too. It's very tragic. But yeah, I just put this on here as a joke, so let's put him in F. He's not an entity. Makomon. Well, if there's one thing I could say, the Digimon franchise hates Makomon. So those of you who have not watched Tri, Makomon's the vessel that contains basically the evils of Apocalypse after he's been destroyed, and our partner's job is to basically keep Makomon in check. Makomon's able to spread like a corrupting virus, and leads to the digital world being like, yo, we can't deal with this, we're rebooting. So then the digital world reboots, but then all the data gets stored into Makomon. Makomon becomes a giant, weird, naked monster angel, and is like, not quite begging for death, but it's kind of in that way. And then the Tamers have to come together to be like, we have to make the terrible adult decision to euthanize Makomon, because it's what's best for her and best for the world. And yeah, that's sad, and that's a kind of growing up thing, is having to make a terrible decision like that. That's not the best. And in the end, they are rewarded because Makomon's reborn, which is confirmed in Kizuna because she shows up. But so that's the first instance of the universe hating Makomon. In every game cameo Makomon's had, such as Digimon World, I believe Next Order, Makomon's also a wild berserker suffering. In Digimon Ghost Game, Makomon shows up after having its identity stolen by Betsumon to the point where no one can remember anywhere more, and it fades from existence. And then Crackmon appears as the partner to an unwilling dude, ends up going mad, hurting him, and running away into the digital world. So yeah, the universe hates Makomon and its line. I like cat angels, I like cats. But how does May exist outside of May? Because I hate that they give them both similar names. There is more to her than our F tier in that she exists. She's kind of a nice Digimon. She falls into the more childlike despite being an adult level. I'd say, put her under Falcomon.